Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Ariana, joined by the beautiful Steph Sanchez. Coming to you live, not from Indy, but coming to you
Oh,
live.
thanks for
Not
rubbing
to
that
just
in.
shove that in there, not just to shove that in there, but coming to you live. And the first thing I was originally going to talk to you about was going to be the combine. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Love is Blind, but
Yeah. Love it.
I had this whole revelation about Brock Purdy and like a bunch of other things that I want to get to. But before we get to that, there's some breaking news about the 49ers defensive coordinators brought to you by Kyle Shanahan himself and Matt Mayoko. Really quickly, Corey Soto says there were quite a lot of people saying there was no way it could be Staley. Well. And then appears he has his foot in the door. Mariah, faithful 49er faithful pod. Everyone go like and subscribe to her channel. She says, yo, have a great show. And then we have a lot of people in here.
Let's go.
Travis and 49er Talk says, yo. We got Stephanie, we got Rick. So I figured we would start it off talking about the breaking news. Did you see Matt Mayoko's tweet? Yeah. Sounds like he just spoke to Kyle Shanahan about the defensive coordinator news. I just want you to know, and everyone watching the show to know, that when I was making my thumbnail, I was right here in the kitchen because my friend is doing his work, his real job in the office. And I was asking my other friend, I was like, should I make it about the defensive coordinator? Like everyone wants to know, but I feel like I've already done some little shows on him or like little videos on the coordinator positions, and it's kind of a tired topic. And I was like, but knowing me, we're gonna get some information right before. And this was at like 2 my time. It's like 6 my time now. So I just want to say that I went with my thumbnail because I thought it was pretty and clever, and I was so excited about my Love is blind reference that we'll get to later on. But I did make the wrong decision, and I should have made it about the defensive coordinator because we did get breaking news. Do you want to inform people about what that is, Steph?
Yeah, sure. So Matt Mayoko, just a couple hours ago, an hour ago actually, put out an article, and it pretty much says that the 49ers completed interviews with former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley, as well as an internal candidate, Nick Sorenson. Sorenson is the 49ers defensive passing game specialist currently. Both of those names aren't really surprising to us, because we kind of figured those would be at least one of the names that would be floating around. Daniel Bullocks, who is the 49ers defensive backs coach, he is also going to be interviewing later this week. So another name that isn't very surprising, but I'd have to imagine as far as like internal candidates go, it's probably just going to be Sorensen and Bullocks, just based on how much time has gone by. And it's just been those two internally, and so it seems like, and Matt Mayoko also mentioned in the article, external candidates are going to be interviewed later this week. Yeah, so thank you, Corey. So that brings into question, who might that be, right? Kyle's not going to be in Indy. That's one thing I did kind of wonder briefly, but he's not going to be there, so he's going to stay in Santa Clara, get those interviews. So I would assume whoever he interviews, either it would be virtual or it would be someone who would fly out, to Santa Clara, to get the face-to-face
Brian
interview with
Flores
him.
is an interesting option. I don't know if he's
Yeah.
gonna be let go from where he's. I mean, it
I
would
think
be
he
a
already
lateral
was, right?
move.
Like, wasn't he with the Dolphins? And I think he was let go.
No, but then wasn't last year he was with?
Oh no,
Was
not
he
with the
with the?
yeah, you're right, you're right.
Item?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of like candidates that people have mentioned, and I think the Brandon Staley one was like the low-hanging fruit just because they have the same agent, Kyle Shanahan and Staley. So
Oh, so he
if
might have just like
anything,
slipped his way in there like as a
if
favor, even
anything, that could just be doing him a favor. I don't know. But
gets
I have to
his name in the hiring cycles. Like we know a lot
yeah.
of this for coaches, a lot of it, especially with our agents, is just about getting the like perspective out of there. Like it's a good look, in my opinion, if the 49ers are interested in you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Especially for Brandon Staley, whose reputation is kind of in the dumps right now.
Yeah, exactly. So again, just the fact they have the same agent, that could have been set up pretty easily. But I have to imagine, one, just based on how long it's taken, and then two, just the names that we've seen so far. The names so far probably aren't the first choices, if I had to guess. Like, I'm still not buying that an internal candidate, like, if an internal candidate gets hired, I think they'd be settling for an internal candidate personally. So whoever's next on the list of external candidates, I think would probably be like maybe potentially a bigger fish.
So are you someone who bites into the idea of like a Belichick variable guy, or is that too
I
out there
still like, I know a lot of people are like, you would never do that, but I'm not as I think it can happen. Like that, I'll just say that. Like there's a lot of people who are like, there's no way. And another name that people are like, there's no way, why would they do that? Is Jeff Ulbrich, who is the Jets defensive coordinator. I think anything can happen. Like the way I view it, anything can happen. I think that's an interesting one just because there's some buzz around that one, and Tim K, he was the one that mentioned it first, which I feel like that has more, like I don't think he would mention that name just out of nowhere. Obviously there's the connection to Saleh and just that coaching tree, like, there's connection.
My only issue with the Jeff Ulbrich, and it's interesting, right? Because in my opinion, Tim Kawakami's not putting that name out there if there's not like some sort of internal interest in, but like people don't just like pull names out of a hat. Like there has to be for some reason that he's getting brought up. My only thing is I'd be wary because for Robert Saleh, they're on like their last thread, right? They need the 49ers they need to do well this season. The Jets need to do well this season for them to keep their jobs. So like, if he's good, wouldn't they want to keep him? And if they're willing to risk losing him in such a make or break year, to me, that means they don't really value him that much, right? I don't know.
That's definitely
there is that hold up, because wasn't Matt Mayoko kind of talking about how was it Tim Kawakami again today had a tweet saying that they were going to hire their defensive coordinator within the week, right? But that there was some holdup, and that kind of gives some credence to the Jeff Ulbrich idea. Because what if the Jets are like, okay, we do really value him now, so like, yes, but only if you give us like a second. And what if the 49ers are like, how about a seventh? So it could be like that when they talk about holdups. That makes me think it could be an external guy, because if it was an internal guy, what is just be like,
there would be no holdup there.
Yeah,
there would be no holdup for an internal guy. Aside from like scheduling, I guess it's somewhat surprising that Bullocks isn't getting his interview until later this week. But yeah, I mean, certainly you do raise the points of the people who think it's impossible for that move to happen, right? I am just in the anything is possible.
Yeah, you're like, I've seen too much. There's no.
Yeah, like why not? Why not, right? So it's unlikely. I think we can all acknowledge
why
it's
not me
unlikely,
on a rainy day? Why not me? Sorry, that song was stuck in my head yesterday, and I kept. It's like a country song, like, why not me on a rainy day? Why not me? I don't know. It's sorry. I'm sure it sounds different than that. To be honest, I was like going on YouTube the other day, and like one of the thumbnails, it was like, why not? Or why me? Or something like that. And then I haven't heard that song, I swear to God, in like 10 years. And then all morning, I was just singing that, only that verse, because I don't know the song either, to my friend. And she was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I don't know, man. It's hard to be in this brain. But really quick, Corey Soto says, if this team truly wants to win now, especially after coming off a Super Bowl loss, then give me a big, proven name. Get the most out of this D while you have it. I agree. I think that is kind of the push for, I think, Steph, even though Mariah might say that she's causing chaos, I think Steph is maybe pushing for a Belichick type, because it's kind of like, okay, yeah, Belichick might have to let a little of his ego go. Kyle Shanahan might have to let a little of his ego go. But if they truly see it as like this unbelievable opportunity, wouldn't you do everything to build and create the job of John Lynch, the job of Kyle Shanahan is to construct the best roster, and that includes the coaches possible. So in my opinion, you have to at least be, on the phone with Belichick saying, we're going to give you all the money and we're willing to make concessions. I think that is why in that exit interview process, when asked, does the next DC, because they were kind of asking about Steve Wilkes and how he didn't wasn't accustomed to running the Kyle Shanahan scheme. And Kyle made the caveat like, well, we might be open to changing that. I think that was for a guy like Belichick or Vrabel or a bigger name. You know what I mean? Like, if you're worth it,
it'd have to be worth it.
If you've proven to have success with yours, then we could potentially go to you. If you're a small name guy, you're running our shit. That's
or
kind
if
of how Kyle Shanahan.
Or if they run some kind of like hybrid or something like that, then maybe there's wiggle room there as well. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think for the process they're taking their time, and for it to be taking this long, it has me. For one, I like that they're taking so long. I understand the angst of fans of like, this should have been done by the combine. Why are they waiting so long? Kind of thing. But like, it shows me that they care. It shows me that Kyle does not want to make the same mistake he did with Steve Wilkes, and he wants to make sure he gets the right candidate. So that involves, getting a bigger pool of candidates and interviewing those guys, both internally and externally. And as we know, external candidates are next up to be interviewed, or more external candidates are next up. So I think, it shows they're not rushing this. I like that. They need to, kind of like you said, show us that. Give me the proven name is what Corey said. Like, that's exactly the wavelength I'm on as well. Give us someone who you can trust, Kyle, and we can trust too, to make us feel better.
Don't rush into a pick. Don't just settle for an internal hire because it's easy. Like, do the due diligence.
Yeah. You know what I would like too is someone who is way more experienced than Kyle. Okay, maybe not way more, but just someone who has more experience than Kyle and like has head coaching experience. Because I think if it's someone that Kyle Shanahan respects and is more like decorated than him as far as accomplishments go, and how much experience they have, then that can be the perfect marriage of like, okay, this defensive coordinator can also help Kyle in what he lacks and what he doesn't know, right? Or what he doesn't think he doesn't need to know, kind of, because, just someone who can maybe break down that, ego of Kyle just a bit.
I like the idea that I think that was my openness to the Belichick question, or a guy like him. Like, I'm kind of using him because he seems like the, maybe the ultimate mountaintop, but a guy like Vrabel, someone, I like how you said Kyle respects, because to me there has to be some sort of change from last year if you want, right? Like, the definition of an insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So so in my opinion, like if you want to bring this defense to the next level, maybe Kyle Shanahan would benefit from feeling not only like his defensive coordinator is competent so he can fully invest in the offense, but you're right, so they could learn off of each other. Because we've heard a lot that Kyle Shanahan likes to be really invested in the defense and what they're doing and wants to, help and learn that side of the ball. So potentially, not only would a guy like Belichick be able to build his resume and learn more about the Shanahan system, but then Kyle Shanahan's going to learn how to stop Mahomes because Mike Vrabel and those guys have done that over and over again. So I do think having a guy of like prestige might be the only way to knock to get Kyle Shanahan open to listening and maybe having a bit of change in his system. And not just his system of like what they play on the field, but his system within the building, how they game plan, how they talk. Like a guy like that is going to have real influence on how things are run. And although that might be scary to Kyle Shanahan, right? Because like change is scary, but sometimes necessary to get you to your ultimate goal. And I think if Jed York or someone could sit Kyle Shanahan down and kind of explain to him that, I think some people I've like kind of heard the argument that Kyle Shanahan might be like too prideful to do that. How do you feel about that statement? Like, I kind of think that although pride is obviously a huge deal for these coaches, I think football is their life. And like within the coaching system, like Kyle Shanahan throughout his career has had to have so many moments where he's pushed his pride aside in order to grow and learn. Like he could have worked under his dad, but he wanted to go work in Cleveland and like build up his own name. Like I could see him putting football and a Super Bowl over his pride, even if it's difficult. Does that make sense? But do you think no?
I mean, I don't think that isn't impossible. I just don't think we've seen it yet. Like I mean, I think he's been at the doorstep of Super Bowls and, for whatever reason hasn't gotten one yet. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think a defensive coordinator that Kyle can learn from instead of, the defensive coordinator learning things from Kyle would be like the ideal path forward for this team, just based on where they're at.
Yeah. But I don't know. It is interesting. And I see why this search is taking a little longer, because I do think that they anticipated that Steve Wilkes would end up staying another year. Like when they hired him, I don't think that they thought he was going to be like a one and done type guy.
Yeah.
I know that people talked about like, because the 49ers have kind of a history of losing their coaches, mostly because they're getting hired off and becoming better. But because of his recent history with being a head coach, I kind of suspected that even if he had a really good year, that he'd probably want to stick around for like 2 years. And so I don't think even internally, because I've heard a lot of discourse like, shouldn't they have already been ready for this type of thing? I don't think, and maybe throughout the year they had more of an inkling that they might let him go, but I don't think like when they went into the Steve Wilkes hiring that they anticipated him leaving right away. So and a lot of things happen. Like people didn't anticipate Bill Belichick being not only let go from the Patriots, but then not hired as a defensive coach. Same thing like Brandon Staley. I know we've had a ton of comments being like, I'm really against the Brandon Staley idea. I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but to not look into that after his success that he had with the Rams. But obviously you have to interview him and be like, what went wrong? Is this more of a maybe it's the opposite. Like we're kind of I'm more with you where I would prefer a Belichick, like someone that can help Kyle, but maybe it's the opposite. Maybe Staley is actually really good as like just in his specific role, but he needs guidance and like help with player management and personnel and roster and all the things that he failed at as a head coach. But maybe if he can because Sean McVay is like, in my opinion, a part of the Kyle Shanahan tree, and that's where Staley flourished. So maybe that is something that could work well for Kyle Shanahan. Like that's a different that would be kind of going more in the way of Kyle taking over more. But if it could be, because who did you just say? The Chiefs offensive coordinator, or not offensive, defense.
Spagnuolo.
Spagnuolo. He is kind of that same way, right? Like he's maybe not a guy who would flourish as a head coach right now, but he's said like how happy he is to kind of be stable in his defensive position under Andy Reid, and like that he can only focus on the defense. Maybe Kyle Shanahan would actually do really well with a guy like Brandon Staley. Are you open to him working out at all? Just because we've had so many people in the comments talking about how poor of a job he did. I'm kind of against him because it's not like his offense was the problem with the Chargers. His defense like did really poorly. So I don't love just from what we've seen, I don't love it. But at the same time, I don't know. He was successful under the Rams, so maybe there's something they could figure out there.
Yeah.
Would you
Brandon
be?
Staley, he's a tough one.
Would you be more disappointed or happy if it was between like an internal hire, because we've kind of established like what would be exciting is a Belichick or a Bravel. If it was like Daniel Bullocks or Staley, like which one would scare you more, or which one would you like more? I think the fans would like not like Staley. He seems like
I mean, I think a lot of fans have kind of shown the disdain for Staley. But I'm not so sure that an internal candidate would be a slam dunk either, just because the 49ers seem unsure about it. And I don't like that.
They weren't ready last year, and it's like they don't seem
exactly.
enthusiastic this year. So it's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
what changed in a year?
So in internal candidate, I'd be a little skeptical, hopeful, like, maybe the guy does end up, being a good defensive coordinator, but I'd be a little skeptical. But I'd also be a little skeptical of Brandon Staley for all the reasons of, people have pointed out his time as Chargers head coach. Now, yes, he was the defensive coordinator at that time too. So I don't know, is it because he had added responsibilities of being the head coach that he failed as a defensive coordinator? Like that, did that take away from his like play calling duties? I'm not sure, right? Like, was it the personnel that he just wasn't really jiving with? I don't know. I feel like there's something more there that happened with the Chargers that, Kyle Shanahan would have to kind of like drill down and figure out, okay, like what happened there. Is that something that would be a risk of you bringing to San Francisco as well? Or is it kind of a one-off thing? Because you'd have a different role here where you would solely be the defensive coordinator and you have all these stars and all these things. So there's a lot of questions about Brandon Staley. I don't know if I would. I'm not as against it as other fans, but I'm also not totally bought into the idea. I'd be a little skeptical of him too.
I lost the comment, but there was a comment that basically said Staley did good in LA because he already had the players. And my response to that would be the 49ers have the players. That would be a benefit for Staley. Now, my actual problem with a guy like Staley would be more personal wise than like scheme wise, because I think when you look at the Chargers, they gave up on Staley, and not even gave up on him, but seemed to like want to make a statement about their like disapproval with him. Like at least with Steve Wilkes, like that final game, that defense was playing hard for him. It feels like the Chargers defense like they actually gave up, and there was like breakdowns in the locker room between teammates. Like, and when we think of we wanted Steve Wilkes to go to the sideline because the 49ers missed that Robert Saleh, DeMeco Ryans guy. Like, I think of whoever the defensive coordinator, and maybe this is hard because I'm also advocating for Bill Belichick, but most of the time, aside from Bill Belichick, who to me, Bill Belichick is like outlier, right? Like
Yeah.
we would
Yeah.
make exceptions for him because of who he is. But normally, in my opinion, when I'm thinking like, oh, am I excited about this candidate? It's like, is he going to be a good feed off of Kyle? And I don't get the like energy positive players are enthusiastic vibe about Brandon Staley. Like I can see
Yeah.
one bad game, Nick Bosa being up there like, this dumbass motherfucker did not prepare me real quick. You know what I mean? Like I do not see some like, it felt like for D'Amico Ryans, for Robert Saleh, like the players wouldn't dare, trash mouth them. They wanted to be successful for themselves and for the team, but also because they had so much respect for their coach,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to succeed and they wanted their coach to go on to have success. And I think that there's like a personality that brings that out that I do not feel in Staley.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair. I don't know if I see it either. That could have been maybe the disconnect as well when he was head coach of the Chargers. He's uninspiring if I had to use a word, just looking at him and his aura. That's kind of what I would take away from it. And I I think the 49ers have kind of shown that they respond to inspiring, they respond to respect,
Yeah,
mutual
like they kind
respect.
of have the talent, like they, and maybe this is, you don't agree, but in my opinion, like the 49ers kind of have like the talent and most of the personnel there. It seems to be like a motivation buy-in thing, which I know a lot of fans get kind of mad at because they're like, you're making millions of dollars. But it doesn't that seem, I mean, when we look at who they've had success over, who they haven't, what changes they wanted Steve Wilkes to make, it did seem more of a motivational factor than anything else. Obviously, they did. I know that they said like Fred Warner was helping out with the game plan for the Super Bowl, and Nick Bosa had made several comments about scheme and play calling. So it is some of that, but I think a lot of when we've seen them have the most success has been like, I mean, how does the D line talk about Chris Kosarek? It's like, yes, he probably teaches them like technique, but they talk about his like motivation more than anything else, like his belief in them and
Hmm.
his ability to push them to their next level in ways that are above just teaching like the X's and O's.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's part of what makes a great coach, or what separates a good coach from a great one, right? And I think, like, again, like the trust factor has to be there, and the respect has to be there, but trust and respect is earned. I mean,
Yeah, and
you get
Kyle
a you
Shanahan
get
has to trust and respect the coordinator.
that
You know what I
too.
mean?
That too,
Because
because
the
because if
players
Kyle
notice
doesn't,
that.
why would the players?
The
So
players
yeah,
notice that.
if they sense a riff, there will be it's not going to be good. So yeah, I think, of course, there's a baseline of trust and respect for anyone who gets hired, particularly an external candidate. Um, but once you lose that, I feel like that's kind of hard to regain, especially in season, right? Like there. I mean, we forget about the human factor in all of this. Like you say, people discount the like motivation factor of it all because, oh, they're getting paid millions, you should be able to just do this. But like they're humans who respond to like human emotion, and
Yeah.
you get what you give kind of thing. It's all about energies and things too. That does have a part of it. So yeah, I mean, I think when you look at that and you look at, Staley as a candidate, it's fair to be unsure whether he would be a good candidate who would be able to give the team that.
I was going to say that does then open my eyes more towards, because I agree with you that the internal candidate at this point seems like it would, and maybe it would end up working really great. Like I'm not trying to poo-poo a guy before he even starts, but it would feel disappointing just with all the talk and the wait that's gone on. But when you talk about like internal motivation, I will say like in the media availability right before the Super Bowl, both Charvarius Ward and Diamanda Lenore talked really highly about Daniel Bullocks, said that he kind of gave them credit when prompted to give Steve Wilkes credit. They turned and were like, actually, this guy is responsible for that, which a little bit of a slight in hindsight to Steve Wilkes, but potentially he does have that side of it, you know. Now, how much responsibility he'll be able to have if he is kind of a younger guy, that goes back to, okay, well, Kyle Shanahan's definitely more in control of this, which I don't know. I kind of think Kyle Shanahan's response to like crisis, which I would say like losing a Super Bowl is kind of like a crisis moment for a coach. I think his go-to for that might be like to try to take more control when potentially the solution to that could actually be giving up some control. But I don't know. Do any of the internal candidates, would one of them over another inspire you more? Would you be disappointed? Like, do you understand me saying that? Or do you think that that's kind of not a fair way to feel right now?
I
We
think
really
like
don't know.
whichever candidates are getting the interviews, you know, I think it's for a reason. I think it's because one, they want to, you know, at some point in their career be a defensive coordinator, and then also I think it would be because Kyle thinks to even some degree that they could be right at some point in their career. So, you know, I'd be optimistic, cautiously optimistic about any of the internal candidates. And you mentioned like Bullocks, like the guys praising him as a coach, like that's certainly a good sign. And yeah, I mean, just a guy who already knows the personnel, knows the system, knows Kyle, the way things work around here, you know, like all of those things I would feel great about. But yeah, the only question I would have is that person ready?
I like that question. Really quick, I want to, because this is like backsliding a little bit, but I want to address a discussion that I feel like I've heard a lot, which is like, and I think I even probably bought into this and talked about this in this way. But then I saw a different perspective, so I wanted to bring that to here. Is so Steve Wilkes like gave up 19 points to the Chiefs in regulation. And I think when we say that, we think like Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, offensive team, incredible. The Chiefs weren't scoring a lot of points. Like that wasn't abnormal for the Chiefs. The Chiefs were winning, scoring 19 points most of the year. Like they weren't a high-powered offense most of the year. So actually, like it would be similar to saying like the Chiefs, like if the 49ers gave up like 30 points any other year to the Chiefs. Like they gave up what the Chiefs normally gave up. They didn't hold them to a lower standard than what the Chiefs were at, which I think is a distinction that I hadn't really thought about or recognized because I don't cover the Chiefs, and that I've definitely heard other people be like, how could you fire him, Patrick Mahomes, and you hold him to 19 points? And I was like, I heard people saying that, and I was like, yeah, like that's fucked up. And then I heard the other perspective that was like, actually, the Chiefs were much more of a defensive team, and they were consistently scoring 19 or fewer, 20 or fewer points. The only times that they lost were when the other team scored more than 24 points. Like their offense was not high powered last year. So it actually wasn't that impressive to hold them to 19 points. That was very normal for them.
As far as the 2023 version of the Chiefs, that you hit the nail on the head. That is exactly true. So, I'm trying to find like my some of my post or pre Super Bowl stats, because I did have one about like how many points they had been scoring before the Super Bowl this season, and so I'm trying to find it.
I don't know why I keep like singing. I just like poured myself some water and I was like, pour it up, gonna fall out, dollar bills. I just got my money. Don't worry, I was better at singing the country song than Rihanna. Don't worry.
Where are you though?
It's good that I'm it's good that I'm so bad at that because I don't think you can play songs on YouTube, but I messed it up so bad that there's no way that YouTube would ever even acknowledge that. While you look for that stat, though, I'm going to read Corey Soto's super chat, who says The best thing for Kyle is someone as good or even better than he is at his craft. Kyle needs a mentor who can help him elevate his own coaching. I completely agree. Do you see my friend really slyly trying to open the door behind me? She doesn't even know. Sorry. that's her hand. This is my friend. Do you want to say hi to people, Lacey? This is my friend who she's scared. She doesn't want to say hi to people. They're not intimidating. I think she's just trying to get her ice cream. I'll ignore her. She seems
Let
to
her
want to be
get her
ignored.
ice cream.
Okay. For Corey Soto, I want to say I 100% agree. I am uncertain if Kyle Shanahan is doing as much reflection as you are, or even if he has done that reflection and has also accepted that. I don't know if the people who are better than him at his craft would want to take a lesser than him position. So those are like the two problems. Is one, we don't really have a huge history of Kyle Shanahan doing like self-reflection and wanting to give up power. Two, even if he has like say, because I think there is something to like hitting rock bottom and then realizing that you need a change in your strategy. So there's a couple problems. One, even though they just lost the Super Bowl, I don't think Kyle Shanahan feels like he's hit rock bottom yet. So I don't even know if he's done that self-reflection. But if he has, that would still require the other person who is better at their craft then having their own self-reflection and being like, I'm gonna, let go of my ego and take a lesser than this guy position, even though I feel better than him at my craft, So it takes like two prideful people at the same time, both. It's like falling in love. This shit is hard. You know what I mean? Like you gotta find another person that you like, and that gets
Deep.
along as good as you and has the same. I know.
But yeah, I mean that's exactly what we were just discussing, right? Like the ideal defensive coordinator at this stage of where the 49ers are in their window, where Kyle Shanahan is at in his career, like would be someone who I would say like challenges and could successfully challenge Kyle Shanahan and wouldn't get like dismissed for challenging him or not literally
Yeah.
but just
But like
like
wouldn't have that fear of like
yeah
this is my higher up. This is so. I was just thinking about this too. Like, this is so personal, but like, I'm staying at my friend's, right? And I'm gonna like be living here. And I was kind of talking to my dad, and I was like, well, there's a difference in like if you feel like it's your home, like if you move in somewhere with a roommate and you both are on the lease and you both like put whatever, then you like both have say in like how things are run. But if you're a guest in someone's home, like if you're going home to visit your parents or something, then like you have to do things on their terms because it's like, and I feel like an internal hire feels more like that, like more like Kyle Shanahan is still running the show and you have to defer to them. Where if you are a person who is coming in with equal or above footing, then Kyle Shanahan might have to do some of his own. What is that when two people have to like adjust to the other? They like give and take. Give and compromise. There we go. I love the English language. So good at it. But yeah. Anyways, maybe moving. A lot of people are saying compromise. I'm glad that was an easy word for everyone else and not for myself. But aside from the breaking news of the combine, I will kind of really quick. Our breaking news of the defensive coordinator, really quick, because Stephanie is going to have her own show. And I want you guys to all like and subscribe to my show, Ashley Ariana. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. I'm not far away. I'm like 40 away. So if I could get there by like the end of the month, that'd be cool. But I don't know if that's too ambitious. But maybe if you all like and subscribe, I could get there real soon. Really quick, right before you go, do you have any things, if you were at the combine, that you would be looking out for, that you'd be trying to talk to about, like any quick takeaways from the fact that the combine is officially starting tomorrow, right? But most reporters and people go in today. It seems like I want to go for the gossip. It seems like everyone just goes and chats to everyone, and everyone gets to find what team is going to trade and what team is going to. I always feel like there's like breaking news coming out of the combine, people leaking stuff.
Yeah, there definitely is. That's part of what makes the combine a lot of fun. And you guys know I do my draft sheet every season. So I'm not going to be at the combine this year, but as us 49ers content creators, like there's a lot of us, and there's going to be several others besides me who will be there. So keep an eye on them. Jason Aponte, Brad, of course, the SF Niners. The 49ers beat writers will be there this year too, since the 49ers do have a first round pick. So make sure, yeah, you
Are
guys
you
check in
anticipating
with all
that
them.
first round pick is a offensive lineman?
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, just because there's so many. It's a really offensive lineman heavy draft, in particular for tackles. So I think the 49ers should, take advantage of that. And I would even say it wouldn't surprise me if they double dip. But yeah, we're going to hear a lot about who the 49ers met with at the combine. That's going to give us a bit of an idea of who they're kind of interested in or who they want to know more about. So make sure you guys, stay tuned in with the draft sheet, because I will be updating that all throughout the week. And of course on my channel as well.
I'm so excited for the draft. I love that the 49ers have a first round pick. I feel like it makes it really enticing. I saw Ethan Strauss did a interview with Guy Haberman, right? Guy Haberman?
Yeah,
John
Haberman.
Middlecoff,
Yep.
Those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of advocated that the 49ers, if they look towards trading Debo next year, because he advocated for keeping Brandon Ayuk, he was like they should use that first round pick on a wide receiver, which I thought was like a really interesting idea.
Well, look,
And then
I mean,
everyone make sure to subscribe to Steph's channel. It is Steph 49er K.
yeah, thank you. And just to end on that quick note, like, yeah, if the 49ers move on from Brandon Ayuk via trade, you have to have a guy who immediately can come in
Replace
and
him.
fill that gap like as quickly as possible. And yeah, there are some great receivers at the top of
I
this
wonder how the
draft.
fan
So.
reaction. I wonder how the fan reaction to that would be, like to drafting a wide receiver, because I think that normally fans are kind of like, because drafting an offensive lineman is boring. But I feel like after 2 years of kind of being like, they need to go offensive line, if they like waited until their freaking like third round pick to get an offensive lineman, I could see fans being like, what are you doing?
It wouldn't
Even if the
surprise me,
players are good.
honestly.
But
Like,
I there is something to the like value conversation of, especially if they don't trade up, because that was the Ethan Strauss's guy's like opinion, is he was kind of like, if you're gonna get an offensive lineman, you should be like higher in the first round. And if you're not going to trade up, then you should choose like a corner or a wide receiver at that place, number one. So it'll be really fun to get more into that. Jose's going to be on my channel tomorrow, so we'll definitely talk more about that. I have some names and stuff that I would like to get to. Also, just teasing for tomorrow, I want to talk about does getting a guy like Brock Purdy hold the 49ers back from finding their Patrick Mahomes? Dun, dun, dun. Just an interesting thought that I had when I was thinking of, like, if you're in a relationship that's like good enough but not perfect, or like if you're dating and you don't want to be dating and you date a guy and you're kind of like or a girl, and you're kind of settling, it might like keep you from it might keep you from going and finding your perfect person because you're like comfortable, where being like a lot of people are afraid of being alone, right? But maybe that being lonely actually pushes you to like go out and date and like find better versus settling. I don't know. That's a whole other topic.
A lot of relationship analogies in this one.
And been in my romance bag, baby. It's February. It was Valentine's Day.
Hey, I mean, your thumbnail had to do with Love is Blind, right? So
yeah. And then we didn't talk about it at all. I totally should have made it about the defensive coordinator, but someone said that is deep and LOL. Anyways,
Ashley, no, like what they call that is QB purgatory, and it's just because like if you have a quarterback who's just good enough where like you don't want to move off of him because he's good enough. Think like Jimmy Garoppolo. Like I feel like they were in quarterback purgatory with Jimmy.
I agree with that. But I think that Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy, and that's like kind of
absolutely.
It's interesting because like that kind of and you have to go, so I'm gonna let you go, but that brings up like a different discussion, right? Like how good is good enough? Because like I think Purdy, Dak Prescott, those guys are better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but are they as good as you need? You're getting lots of shout outs in the chats. People are saying Lombardi was shouting you out yesterday.
Shouting me out. That's cool.
Reading they just had a heartbreak. See, I'm on theme with the romance. They just had a heartbreak. Now I'm just telling you how to find love again, baby. You don't just stop. You don't give up, okay? Anyways, everyone like and subscribe. I hope I did a good job teasing my show tomorrow. And I know Steph is going to have a wonderful show coming up. So make sure to like and subscribe to her channel as well. And go check that out. I know she has another show at 4. I appreciate you guys. This offseason has been fun. And there's never not enough news for the 49ers. Never a dull moment, Thank you so much, Steph. Thank you, guys. I hope you have a great night. And by the way, I'm not saying I agree with that take because now people are like, Purdy is good enough. I'm just teasing. I'm being like dramatic, It's not clickbait. It's like a trailer for a movie. It leaves you wanting more. You got to come back tomorrow to see my opinion. Bye, guys.
Peace.